All right, so yesterday we went through the questions involving quadratics and finding different parts of them, either the minimum, which would be there, or the maximum, which would be there. Depending on which way the parabola opens up, you'd have a minimum or maximum. And then also you may have to find the roots when you have a parabola that goes like this, and you would find those two places, which are also called zeros on a TI and root on a Casio. And so then the other parts of the test that will be on Friday is you're going to have to graph and label parts of a function, a quadratic function, and then some questions from previous material that we've covered in this class and at any point in time during the year. So as far as graphing quadratic equations, here would be an example of one. And so if we open up our graphing calculator, all right, well, graphing calculator is not working for us, so we'll just have to graph this by hand. Now to graph it by hand, you should always find the line of symmetry first, and that would be at x equals the opposite of b over 2a. And so in this case, it would be a negative 8 over 2 times 1, which is negative 4. And so we know we have a line of symmetry right there. Then to find the vertex, you know the x value is a negative 4 because it's where the line of symmetry is. And then to find the y value, you substitute a negative 4 into your equation. So you have a negative 4 squared plus 8 times a negative 4 plus 15. And so that is 16 minus 32 plus 15, which is going to get you a negative 1. And so now we know our vertex for this particular parabola is a negative 4, negative 1. And if you were on your calculator, you can just enter, like I said, enter that. And if you want to know where the vertex is, because this is a parabola that opens up, because there's a positive number out in front, it's going to be like that. You can find the minimum. Then the other thing that you can find without having to do too much work is the y-intercept, which is another coordinate that you should be able to label quite easily. And anytime you have it in this form, if you substitute a 0 in for both of those x's, 0 squared is 0, 8 times 0 is 0, plus 15 is just 15. So zero 15 would be the vertex, or not the vertex, would be the y-intercept. And now, because you know this point for negative 4, negative 1, and 0, 15, and this is the line of symmetry here, then that means that there has to be a point 4 on that side of it. So there's a coordinate over here at a negative 8, comma 15 as well. And then you can draw this like so. And with your graphing calculator, you could, as this is being drawn, then you could also find this point and that point, which on a TI would mean find the zeros of it. And on a Casio, you would want to find the roots. And then you can plot those 2 points as well. And you'll have a question like that on tomorrow's test. Then the other type you'll have is something like this. Same thing if you want to figure out how to graph this. If you have your graphing calculator, you can substitute just that into your calculator. You don't have to do any multiplying or anything with it. Just type it in the way it is and then graph it and it'll show you everything. If not, you should understand that in this case, x is equal to 3 is one of the roots or zeros. And in this case, x equals 14 is the other root or 0. So then at 3, 0, there's a root. And at 14, 0, there's a root. And because our value out here is negative, we know this is a parabola going like that. Now, because we have the roots of 3 and 14, halfway between those two things is where the line of symmetry is at. And so halfway between 3 and 14 would be 3 plus 14 divided by 2, which is 8 and 1/2. And so that line of symmetry is x equals 8 and 1/2. And then if you want to find the y value, once you know that the x value is 8 and 1/2 for the line of symmetry, then the vertex is going to be at 8 and 1/2, comma, something. And then you have to substitute 8 and 1/2 into the equation. And when you do that, you will get 10.08 and things. And so our vertex is going to be up here at 8 and 1/2, 10.08, and so our parabola would look like this. And that is pretty much enough information for it. The other place that you could find on this particular parabola would be down here where it crosses the y-axis. And in order to find the y-intercept, you would substitute 0 into the equation, and 0 minus 3 is a negative 3, and 0 minus 14 is a negative 14, and then a negative 1/3 times a negative 3 times a negative 14 is going to be a negative 14. So the y-intercept is 0, comma, negative 14. Which means that because you have a point here, and this is your line of symmetry, this point over here is 8 and 1/2 away from 8 and 1/2, which would be 17, comma, negative 14 as well. And those are the two types of equations that you'll get to use your calculator on to graph. Now, the other things that will be on your test tomorrow will be evaluating some functions at different values and some stuff about logarithms, which we did in first semester. So first, let's look at evaluating functions. Let's say you have f of x equals 2x plus 5, and g of x equals x squared minus 3. You may have to figure out what is f of 5. So in this case, you would substitute a 5 in for x and get 2 times 5 plus 5, which in turn is going to be 15. Or maybe you will have g composition f of 3. And remember, when you do this, first we figure out what is f of 3. F of 3 is going to be 2 times 3 plus 5, which is equal to 6 plus 5, 11. And then we know then that f of 3 is 11. So now we're going to find g of 11. And so then in this case, we substitute 11 in for x into the g function, and this 11 squared minus 3, and that would be 121 minus 3 is 118. And so you'll have to do some things like that. And then finally, you'll have some logarithm equations, maybe like ln of x equals 12. And remember, to get rid of the ln, you have to put e as your base on both sides, because the inverse of ln is e. So then x will equal e to the 12th power. And then you have to use your calculator to come up with what e to the 12th is. And that will be 162,754.791 approximately. That would be one example of something you might see tomorrow. Or maybe you'll have like 3 times 2.5 to the x equals 8. And so then if we're trying to figure out what 8 is, the first thing we would have to do is divide both sides by 3 to get 2.5 to the x equals 8/3. And we can leave it as 8/3. If you want to do the math for it, you could, but you don't have to at this point. Then, because we have a variable in the exponent, to get rid of the base of 2.5, you have to take a log with a base of 2.5 to both sides. And then on this side, the log 2.5 and the 2.5 go away, and you're left with x. This side, then you have log 2.5 base of 8/3. And so now you would take out your handy dandy calculator and you would put in log of 8/3 divided by log 2.5. And you will get x is approximately equal to 1.0704. And that would be everything that will be covered on your test tomorrow, or on Friday. And so if you want to have a little bit more practice of things for this test, you could look in your green book and there are some problems in the review that you could do, which would be questions 1, 2, 4, 7, and 8 would be some things that you could work on and check your answers for the test on Friday. Then, Monday's portion of the test will be this part of it. And this review is already on a video that can be found at my website, and it is under Advanced Algebra 10. It's the non-graphing calculator part of the test. And you can watch that this weekend or even today and look at it and go through, and we'll go through all of the problems that will be on Monday's test.